Councilman Robert White, thank you very much for joining us. We have a lot to cover. Let's get right to it. D.C. has gotten a lot of attention over the past several months over the rise in crime, and I know that you announced recently a crime bill. But before we get to that, what do we know, or we do know that violent crime is up nearly 40%. Those are numbers from the Metropolitan Police Department. How would you characterize crime in the district right now?
Crime in DC is the number one concern of almost everyone I speak to in the city right now. It's something they tell me they are worried about and they want us to get a handle on. So I think anybody who is an elected official in DC right now has to be paying attention to how we get a handle on crime, not just in the short term, but in the long term. And it's having an impact on how people feel about simple things like going out to eat, pumping gas. We saw crime get out of control in the 80s and 90s when I was growing up here, and we see it getting back to that place, hitting homicide rates that we haven't seen in DC since the 90s.
What in your crime bill do you think could really be impactful to help change the trajectory?
What people want is for us to get a handle on crime quickly. But right now we have a broken infrastructure in our public safety ecosystem. People are calling 911. Sometimes hundreds a day are hanging up because they're not getting an answer. We don't have enough folks at the Department of Forensic Sciences collecting evidence, which hurts prosecution. The U.S. Attorney's Office, a federal agency, is not prosecuting almost 70% of people arrested by MPD. So if we don't fix these basic structural issues, doesn't matter what else we do. You can't build on top of a broken foundation. I want us to fix the foundation.
You ran against Muriel Bowser for mayor. Now she's facing what some would call a crisis in the district, with crime being up, as we just talked about. There is, I guess, again, a rise in the murder rate, and we're losing a lot of police that you talked about. There's a murderer, of course, that escaped police custody more than a month ago. D.C. lawmakers are holding several hearings about crime in the district, and she did announce Operation Trident, which arrested 48 fugitives. But how do you think the mayor's doing right now?
I think everybody in this city agrees that we're not where we need to be on public safety. I would again say it's because we've done a lot of things, but those things have been trying to build on a bad foundation. I think we've got to fix the foundation. I like what I saw in Operation Trident partnership with federal officials. That resulted in arrests. But what we know is that people are being arrested, but then they aren't being prosecuted. I believe that a good public safety system holds people accountable and is fair. I don't think we have to choose one or the other. So if people are arrested, but then they're let go because there's problems with the evidence, or if crimes are happening and people can't get through to 911, we're not going to be a safer city, no matter how many tens of millions of dollars we pour in or how many new programs we create.
If Mayor White were in office right now, what would you do to address the problem? What would be your number one issue? Because again, you talked about your crime bill, but again, if Mayor White was at the helm, what would you do?
I address the public safety issue the way that I address everything. I talk to people, I go into the communities, I get to the core of issues, examine and identify what's broken, and then develop tools to fix it. That's what I did with this bill. That's what I've done with other bills, particularly this year. So what I would do as mayor is what I'm doing as council member. I'm going back to the basics, fix the infrastructure. My bill aims to fix our 911 system. It aims to improve and expand our Department of Forensic Sciences. It gives us more tools to hold people accountable so that when people are arrested, they are prosecuted and prosecuted fairly. I also track guns to their source. I want to know, are there particular states, particular stores that are leading to the rise in illegal guns in our city? And I work to make sure that our violence intervention programs, which are important, are coordinated and collecting the right data so we know where they're working and where they need to improve. That's the foundation. That's back to basics. That's what we have to do right now, and we have to do it well.
Let's talk a little bit more about your crime bill. Some people are optimistic. Some wonder if more aggressive steps need to be taken. But let's talk a little bit more about what your crime bill consists of.
Would love to. Again, we look at the 911 system. We had a problem with fire in the EMS years ago. Courts ordered us to do an evaluation of the system and then move on that evaluation. I'm asking 911 to do the exact same thing. It worked for fire and EMS. It will work here. I'm tracking guns to their source. That would have us working with ATF, a federal agency, so that we can stem the tide of illegal guns coming into our city. I expand the Department of Forensic Sciences, offer incentives to get the best and brightest into this agency so we can get reaccredited and have enough people collecting evidence. That is the way that we hold people accountable. Violence intervention services, which we've created a lot of over the years. I'm a strong believer in them, but we haven't been tracking their progress. We haven't been tracking the data to see how we need to improve. If we're not improving as we go, then we're not doing it right. We have a lot of programs aimed at emerging adults. I want to centralize those under one person so that they are well coordinated and we are preventing future crimes. Finally, a lot of times in conversations about responding to crime, we forget about the victims, and we can't forget about the victims. I get calls all the time from people who have been victims of crimes, who have lost loved ones and children, and they don't know where to turn. So part of my bill also speaks to victims of crime to make sure they can know about and access the programs that we've created for them.
Councilman White, thank you very much for joining us.
I appreciate you having me.